Okay, that time I actually just accidentally hit the magic trackpad. Um, okay, so part of what I'm saying is that this notion that you are an individual um, that has a will inside you is a particular cultural notion of a particular historical and social time period. Um, it is the magic of the day. Now, as we move through the modules and we start to get into social theory, I'll give you a little bit more background for that and come back to it and hopefully make a stronger case for it. So, at this point, though, I just want to sort of summarize. There's sort of these two separate magics that you're going to come across as we begin looking at how law operates in society. One of them would be the larger social forces, society, culture, history. And these things will be talked about as though they were actors in action, such that you can actually blame them. People will say, well, that's how I was raised. In effect, blaming their historical experiences, their personal biography, for what they're doing right now. I'm not saying that they're wrong or that they're right. I'm just saying that how you explain action in any particular instance is the thing that we're going to study in this class. That's it, for at least for now. So sometimes people will go to their historical background or the society they're in. I've heard people say, "Well, of course I eat this. It's my culture." And I was thinking to myself, "Well, okay, but that would make me Thai because I eat Thai all the time. I mean, and there's got to be people that are within a culture that don't particularly like that sort of thing or whatever it is. But in any case, there is that belief that these larger social forces control. Now, the other side of that is there's people who believe that we are all individuals and that separate, distinct, discrete from society around us. We make decisions and choices and therefore can have responsibility entirely attached to us as opposed to society. Um, that's also not empirical. I'm not sure that there is evidence for, you know, this whole idea of, well, there's a mind that makes these decisions that's independent of anything else going on. Again, I need more time to make the case, but I just want you to be aware of those sort of two magics. Now, look at Katz in relation to that. He's talking about how you deal with the fact that sometimes you feel compelled to action, that you feel like, um, I don't know, have you ever just found yourself, at a party making out with somebody and you didn't really plan to make out with them or anything like that? I mean, just sort of got caught up in the moment. How do you explain that? I mean, was it a choice? Well, yeah, maybe you're sitting there. Um, you must be choosing to be there at some level, but it's not planned, and it's not like you thought, well, I've examined all the issues, and I believe I shall make out now. I mean, you just sort of, find yourself there. How do you how do you explain the fact that there seems to be an outside world that does seem to compel you, and an inside person that has some say in the matter? Katz is saying, you're going to have to believe in magic. Um, and for him, that magic is we cast the spell that then compels us. To give you an example of this, I smoked cigarettes for about 12 years of my life. I started smoking because I was in an after party. We didn't call them raves back then. And this girl named Leslie, I was talking with her in the front of the place, and she was really cute, and I was happy to be talking to her. And she said, "Do you want a cigarette?" And I wasn't going to say no to anything she brought up. And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Could you light it for me?" Because I wouldn't have known how to. But I tried to say it cool, like, "Hey, yeah, can you light that for me?" Just to play it off a little bit. I don't know if it worked. The next day, I had my friend Clarence teach me how to smoke cigarettes. Now, the thing about cigarettes is they taste bad, especially the first few times you do them. And it took me really a month before I figured out how to smoke cigarettes. Another 6 months before I thought, wow, a cigarette would really, taste good right now. And then I was hooked. And I was hooked. When it's, I grew up in Oklahoma. If you're smoking in the summer in Oklahoma and it's 92 degrees outside and 95% humidity, and you're smoking a cigarette, um, you're hooked. You're hooked. I was hooked. But who had hooked me? Me. I did it on purpose. I cast the spell that then swept me away. I've seen talk shows where people are like, well, he slept with your sister and your cousin, your best friend. Why are you staying with him? Oh, because I love him. Okay. How do you come to love somebody? Well, the first thing you end up doing is you end up spending time with them. If you don't sit there and hang around them, you're not going to end up falling in love with them. And then comes the second part, which is you have to kind of disattend things that are not compelling about them. You know what I mean? Like you just don't pay attention to something, or you find it cute or something like that, or whatever else. In a year, you'll see clearly all those faults. But at first, you don't, because you go about the work of not seeing them. You put yourself in that situation with that person, and you get yourself long enough to be hooked. And then you blame the hook for having hooked you. You don't fall in love. You pull it over you like a blanket to cover you. And then you blame the blanket when you don't feel warm anymore. That's the give and take that Katz is trying to get at in Seductions of Crime. That we seem to conjure the spells that then compel us towards crime. And he's trying to get at the balance between I'm an individual who chooses, and there are situations in the world, social forces that are larger than me, outside my control, and they're both operating at the same time. That point where they come together, I think, is what Katz is talking about as magic. Now, to get to some points we're going to go to from here, I need you to notice in the discussion the power of the categorical and how often it comes up. And you can go back through the discussions, and you will see this in almost every discussion message posted. Look at Knox. Quote, I can't believe a mother would allow that violence. Delilah agrees that a mother would have protected better. Jarrett talks about factors that contribute to the killing of your family, being low income and single parent families, because there's more stresses there. I'm not disagreeing with Jarrett that there is stress without money. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that you're coming to understand what happened at a crime scene that you will never see, with people that you will never know, by reference to categories. A mom would have protected better. That's not what a mom does, and so I don't buy the story. Andrew says, Andrew basically doesn't buy the story because, quote, to think that a child could stealthily murder his siblings without any measure of resistance sounds outrageously fictitious. That's the beauty of the story. You don't have to be there to call bullshit on it. Isn't that lovely? Right? It's just like, no, he's 14, and he's a child. And by the way, Andrew has him as a child. Now, I knew a guy in Oklahoma, and Lord knows we grew him big out there, named Chip Sears. Chip Sears at 14 was 315 pounds, and he was 6'4". Stealthy? Well, okay, not stealthy, but he could kill everybody. He was a big, big man. And when that child is 1.5 feet taller than you and outweighs you by 150 pounds, are you really sure that you can protect your other children against him? If he has it in his mind, he's going to do it. Really? Once you call him a child, then you find that he hasn't done it. But is 14 always a child? I know you guys live on the peninsula for the most part, and I didn't grow up around here. But I knew 14-year-olds that you had to worry about. Maybe you wouldn't have seen them as a child. Maybe. I don't know. Now you say, well, she's a mother. A mother would have protected better. There was a story 3 years ago about a mom holding her baby during an argument with her boyfriend, where she grabs the child or holds the child's feet and swings the child to hit the boyfriend, and does. Hits him pretty hard, fractures the child's skull, and the child dies. Moms will protect their children except when they won't. And by the way, at some point here, we're going to have to talk about the sometimes nature of things. Um, but we believe in the categories. We say, okay, this story couldn't have gone this way. Not if. I mean, because mothers just don't do that, and children don't act that way. And slitting throats, who in the world does that? You know, Hillary thought that it seemed unlikely because the mother was a security guard, and that makes you think, well, yeah, security guards can protect yourself. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Go look at the next 10 security guards you see. Are you sure? Really? Really? They look like they can protect themselves, all of them? Some of them, yeah. Some of them, I'm not, well, no, not really. Not really. But the category that you see her in, if you don't see her, I mean, you might see her protecting because she's a mother, or you might see her protecting because she's a security guard. Is that right or wrong? That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the power of the categorical to shape perception, that you believe in something because of the categories offered at that time. All right, now the last part, the twist. It's Schnell, who kept researching, and I figured somebody would, and found that in subsequent stories, the mother had done it. Now, here's the beauty of it. You read one newspaper article, there's so much agreement across all of you that the story is sad, lacking, not well done. Then you go to the next story, maybe even in the same newspaper, maybe by the same author, and all of a sudden, it fits, and you believe it. And then it's like, the mother did it. Now we know. It's kind of odd, isn't it? I mean, you basically have the same source that you had before, that you didn't believe, that you didn't think was worthy. Now, all of a sudden, it works. Why do you suppose that is? Anyway, we'll get there. Good work on this first assignment. I'm really happy about it. I'm hoping that we'll get a few more of these. By the way, feel free to comment, to say, this is confusing, I don't understand this, I don't agree with this, you said I said this, I actually said that. All of that is fine. Would love to have it. As many contributions as you can make. I think it just helps make the class better. And nobody's position is sacred, including mine. All right.